Summarize the following in 5 bullet points. Title: Focus Your Mind Best Motivational Speeches of 2022, so far. Transcript: Sometimes success is merely hanging on when others would let go, not doing anything spectacular or out of the ordinary, not leaping a mile or jumping over a mountain, but simply carrying on. Thomas Edison has a famous quote that's really stuck with me over the years. He says many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up, right how close they were to the finish line when they turned their back and said it wasn't worth it. It's really an interesting eel when we put our actions up against the question why. It astounds me how many things are done because it's what we've always done. We act like we're expected to act, think like we're expected to think, see who we're expected to see, but expected by whom? Some of my greatest breakthroughs in life emerged after being asked why by people I look up to or respect. Why have you accepted that that's your income? Okay, great. But why that's how you spend your day? I see how calm. And when one is tasked with look T comes to your climb, every day is opposite day. When they run out, you're running in. When they play safe, you play for the victory. To become who you might be, you must learn how to get there. Mistakes are your curriculum. Simple but not easy. Step 4: trust yourself. Okay, sure, no problem. Easy? Well, yeah, it's easy when you're getting what you want, but evolution takes time, and there's nothing quite like giving and giving and giving and not getting. There's nothing quite like stepping up to the plate again. Whatever you want to call them. On some days literally reach over 200,000 people, and that's not meant to be a humble brag or anything like that. It's just, to me, so incredible that I can't process it right. I get emotional thinking about it. My dream is to add value to other people, provide that little lift that might help someone look at their own problems differently, maybe see a path when before they were unable to. That's what it's all about. And then, in addition to that, a parallel track on a as it turns out, everything about your future is make-believe until you breathe life into it. Look around you at your current reality. Remember that it is a product of what you've allowed, and that at any time you can up the ante, climb the step, reach a new level. You have it within yourself to do that. Just give yourself permission to be that person, and it will be scary. It's going to hurt at times, but let's be that vulnerable. Let's show the world what we can create when we move into it, as though it aimlessly was their greatest source of pain. Music. And he mentions his father, hitting his mother from time to time. In one particular example, struck his mother in the face so hard that it knocked her on the floor, and as she stood back up, she said something along the lines of, "You can hit me, but you can't hurt me." And that was the first time Will understood as a child the difference between what the outside world inflicts upon us than how we choose to react to that occurrence. That ration is why you will succeed. Music. The road to this moment wasn't an easy one. There were times where you thought you knew but simply didn't. Music. There were plans made that drastically differed from the ones fate had prepared. Music. There were days that made you question yourself, your beliefs, that made you ask, what is my purpose? Look, to live is to have felt these things, asked these questions, to have seen firsthand the discrepancy between what we draw up and how life unfolds. And where things went wrong, where you swung and missed. Music. Will you choose to see those moments not as the chains that confine you, but as the strength that elevates you? Will you be vulnerable enough to give away some of you in order to expand and transform all of you? Music, music, music. When our backs are against the wall, we're forced to become more. When the clock is ticking, we are tasked with finding answers that hide among us. It's in the darkness we find light, and while lost we find ours. As my old coach would say in college, when we're doing wall sits or something physically taxing, 15 seconds, you can do anything for 15 seconds, and is in life just a culmination of 15-second windows. It's compartmentalizing the process. It's turning the difficult into the advantages. You have the ability to not think like everyone else. You have it within you to rewire your previous conceptions of the world, to see darkness not as your reason to hide from conjured up monsters, but as your invitation. Valuable. Still right. No phone. Solitude. Think about life. Think about who you are. Think about what you've always wanted and where your current reality aligns. Think about how much you have and how lucky you are. Think about any or all of these things, but think, let your mind go where amidst the push and pull of life you don't often let it wander. For example, some thoughts from my walk today, some of it random sporadic noise, some of it more valuable than others, but all of it valuable because the iceberg is our recognition that we have things to do, places to go, and what better a time than now to start moving in that direction. Music. Now the part of the iceberg underneath the water, supporting all that. There has to be a foundation of self-belief, of self-trust, not only a hardness and understanding that you are not defined by rejection, but also a certainty that things will work out, that You might have to stumble, fall, even aimlessly wander for a set period of time, but when your focus on tour is yours and yours alone, it comes with discovery, growth, joy, sadness, and everything in between, but it is yours, and if you sign that dotted line, it doesn't matter if you are overlooked in some capacity. No person or external event can take away what you know in your soul to be true. Music. Sometimes the inspiration doesn't come to you. No, sometimes you have to go out and find it. When it hurts the most, when the deck seems stacked against you, when the road to travel seems to be lessons you learned. You are here not to relive the past, but to create a new reality, write a new chapter, walk a new path. You are here, and wherever next happens to be, let it unfold because you chose it, let it evolve because it's who you are. Leave the stands and make your way to the stage. We're sure the stakes are higher, but so is the upside. I often talk about the power of looking over our shoulders at those highs and lows from time to time, not because they have power over us, but because they have to those far-off places that were once only dreams, thought, illusions. I've always believed that if it means something to you, it's not stupid, it warrants exploration. Music. For even if the thought doesn't end up being all it was cracked up to be, even if it's not the destination, but only a stop along the way, it still pushes you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It still moves you forward in this beautiful game of life, music. So decide to make today amazing. Choose to Frankel's famous observation that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. In other words, the outside world may change, it may evolve, but it will never have power over how you choose to internalize and view what's happening. That's innately yours. So when the circumstances feel like they demand more than you can give, when they suggest you leave your interpretation of life behind, my run, I would always add 22 seconds, my lucky number, twice 2 and 2. So for example, if I told myself, the workout's going to be 3 pyramids or 30 minutes, I would stop running at 30 minutes and 22 seconds. And if I told myself it was going to be an hour, I'd stop at 1 hour in 22 seconds, always tacking on that 22. And I don't really remember the first time I started doing it or even why, but like so many things, that 22-second period organically became a habit, sort of evolved to priced condo on the beach that I was going to use to impress clients, making products that didn't excite me, talking to people I didn't really want to be talking to, living a life that was not my own. I'd lost myself, right? My love is storytelling, it's capturing life's seemingly overlooked secrets. That's what I get excited about in the morning, that's the value I want to share with the world. And look, money is important, it's necessary, it's freedom, but for me it can't be about the money or opportunities life hides away. No, I was on autopilot and life, it had called for my return. It's funny how when you reject your potential long enough, the universe seems to tap you on the shoulder. It makes it more and more apparent every day that something greater is within an arm's reach, backs you into a corner, until you have to address the dissonance between who you are and who you've allowed yourself to be. Those orders you've been taking don't align with your best self, and so one must not only create through stress, you break them down so that they can be built back up stronger. Personal responsibility cannot be the muscle we refuse to build. There's too much at stake. It can't be the thing you avoid. Why? Because it's what injects meaning into our lives. I'll never forget in the 8th grade, and I bet every single person in that class still to this day remembers my teacher, Mr. Betancourt, walking up to the front of the classroom. He had his hands in a bowl shape and was holding it up to the Kaylee herself, knowing it's not because of what the world provided, it's not because of what anyone gave you, it's not because of what people out there did or didn't do. No. It's because when you were at your lowest, when life was presenting curveball after curveball, when you looked around and maybe even thought to yourself, there's no way forward here, you found a way to get up and create something new. Music. If these walls could talk, they would remind you of the things that you sometimes forget. Music. Yeah, all that stepped inside, wish they'd found that courage a little sooner, wish they'd looked back a little earlier, wish they found the inspiration amidst the chaos and turbulence of their day-to-day lives. And if these walls could talk, they'd hope that maybe this would be it for you, the next step in your evolution. And what's most incredible is that you get there not by becoming something you've not yet become. Now in this moment, it's about noticing who you already are instead of the one mistake or reator. Oh, while I explored all there was to explore, right? Or so I thought. I assumed that maxed the thing out because it was a demo, it wasn't the full game. So my assumption was that it wouldn't let me do too much until I went out and bought the real version. Then one day my friend from up the street came over and I'm showing him the game, and somewhere he notices a little button that opens up this door, and come to find out there was actually a lot of real estate left to explore, a lot of game available. Much value on a single step forward when we're overwhelmed or at a low point is because a single step means you're in the game, you're giving yourself a Chance to find and obtain those little hidden away pieces that can't be found when we stand still and dwell on a situation. Mobility is empowerment, and when we move forward only with what we have, we're continuously reminded that what we have is enough. Music. We have the tools, the resources, and the ability, we just have to somehow remind ourselves. Thing that occurred around me became evidence that would either support or invalidate that possibility. The second I came up against an inevitable barrier, I'd think, maybe this is telling me the answer is no. Right? Life will always be evidence for or against the questions that you choose to ask, which is why it's so important that you're asking the right questions, because the second you change that question to look, I know this can be done, but how will I do it? You start looking at life as a puzzle, is situation from here, and that depends solely on how I choose to look at it. Emerson wrote, people do not seem to realize that their opinion of the world is also a confession of their character. And what a powerful point. The flexibility and the leeway available to us when it comes to making sense of the world speaks to not how the world is, but how the onlooker thinks and interprets. Depersonalizing the situation is one of the greatest superpowers at our disposal. When you're angry and accusatory, you DD up, the little things become everything. And painting that portrait that had been tucked away in my imagination, well, that's done one very real, very tangible brushstroke at a time. It's participating in that dance between nothing and everything, the real and the imaginary. But for the time being, let's leave those very important little things and focus on the divine big things, those nothings that with some vision and concentrated effort become some things. I have a friend that says to me all the Tim Rise can be your genesis, your own beautiful creation story. You have your hand on the dial. And so amidst this world of infinite beauty and opportunity, look around you, soak it all, and ask yourself, what does freedom look like, feel like? Because you were put here to pursue that, and outside of those parameters, I believe that nothing matters. So why not live like it, dream like it, use the little thing in front of you to build the big things that have not yet arrived. Music. Walk away when it's misaligned, Eason, to celebrate, or a reason to grieve, a reason to grow, or a reason to hide. It all comes down to what one chooses to see, how they choose to look at the world. I'll never forget when Peterson talked about curtains, right, with tears or holes in them, same world on the other side, but the opening that you choose to look through paints an entirely different picture, right, contributes to an entirely different understanding. And look, I'm a pragmatist, I just am. I'd never ask people to ChatGPT. The transcript is from a motivational speech. The speaker emphasizes the importance of perseverance and not giving up on one's goals. He also stresses the need to question one's beliefs and actions and to be open to change. The speech encourages listeners to take ownership of their lives and to believe in themselves. The speaker shares personal stories of overcoming adversity and encourages the audience to find their own strength in difficult times. Reagan.